and gentlemen, if you can help me, put your hands together for our next speaker, Balaji from 21.
As you guys know, there was a Wall Street Journal article about 3 or 4 weeks ago on our company, and our goal was actually not to be super mysterious and so on and so forth. It's basically just that there were some reporters sitting around and they had heard about our fundraise, so we wanted to get it out there. Our goal is really to announce things that we've already done. We have done our fundraise, so we announced that. And future things that we're going to do, we'll announce some of those are done as well. If you do want to learn more about the company, please apply at 21.co/poundjobs or go to our booth over there, and happy to tell you more. So, basically going to talk about 5 kind of important points, which we think of when we think about Bitcoin, as well as talk about what we think of as the most important question of Bitcoin, which I'll leave for the end. So those 5 points, basically first, that Bitcoin is a protocol, that payments are now packets, together again for the very first time. Second, Bitcoin is now here to stay. In the last 18 months, we have had tremendous institutional acceptance from pretty much every major government in the world, even those that you might think of as banning it and really just restricted that and really coming down to practice. Third point, and this is something which I don't think most people have done this calculation, but it's interesting. The Bitcoin mining network is now bigger than Google by several measurements, in terms of compute power, in terms of power consumption, and I'll show some of those calculations. Number 4, Bitcoin has a network effect. We want to quantify kind of the 4-sided aspect of the network effect: miners, developers, merchants, and users. Number 5, I want to talk a little bit about the open source nature of Bitcoin. Many of the things that people talk about as constraints on Bitcoin, like 10-minute confirmation times or things of that nature, are actually things that can't be changed by submitting patches to the code that's already happening. If Google turned off search, mail, maps, all of their MapReduce, all of their distributed computing, and all of their data centers, and just pointed it at Bitcoin, it would be less than 1% of the global Bitcoin network today. Wow. Okay? So what has happened in the last 2 years is that the largest supercomputer in history has been built by a bunch of people around the world who don't know each other's names, but are all cooperating together to build this thing that we call Bitcoin. Now, I'll give another fact, which I think is also remarkable. Google in 2011 consumes less power than Bitcoin, and so that's the hash rate. Over here is a quote from 2011, that's the last public statement of power consumption, and it appears that Google is currently consuming less power than Bitcoin as well, if you have reasonable assumptions for watts per hash. And so the combination of these facts is actually pretty interesting, because if mining is bigger than Google, and Google is arguably the most competent, compute cluster in the world, you could take Google, you could do a similar calculation for AWS and Facebook and so on and so forth. But if you want to talk about disruption, this massive new compute network has risen out of nowhere, and none of the existing incumbents can just take over, right? There's no latent pivot that they can do, which is turn their computers towards, trying to mine or take over Bitcoin. And if Google can't do it, then the government that did code probably cannot. Okay. It is open source, decentralized, and programmable, and what that means is every entity can now be a bank, right? So just as we went from landlines to personal, to machine IP addresses, right? So personal landlines to machine IP addresses. We are going from personal bank accounts to machine Bitcoin wallets. Some people will say, oh, Bitcoin is like tulips, and I always say, yes, they're just like tulips that you can instantly teleport anywhere in the world with arbitrary quantities.